To me, especially when I listen to this last album, this new one, for example, when you use some instruments, like for example brass, it doesn't sound like when other people's using brass, on, at least not on pop and rock records. It sounds almost classical to me, the sound of the instruments. Does that have to do with the way of playing them or the way of recording them?
It has to do with the way of recording them. It has to do with what I demand from those particular instruments. I mean, on Let the Happiness In, there's the brass. And the brass players aren't used to playing that kind of line, which is, it was very low, for example, for the brass players to play. Sustained notes, which is very difficult for them to hold. So it's just really asking of these musicians things that aren't normally asked of them. So they begin. So the instruments themselves begin to sound a little different from what you're used to hearing from them. I think it comes from my lack of education as far as music goes. I mean, if I sit at home with a synthesizer and write a brass line on a synthesizer, I don't really know if the instrument I'm thinking of is capable of reaching this register, you know. And in many cases they're not. And so I work with Ryuichi Sakamoto, as she's mentioned, and he will listen to the demos I've put down and we'll talk about them, and he will understand what, you know, the capabilities are of these individual instruments.
So you're not an educated musician?
No.
Not at all?
No, not at all. And I find that a shortcoming in many ways, but I also enjoy that because, I mean, Ryuichi enjoys working with me, I think partly because of that, because I do unusual things with harmonics, and I ask different things of different groupings of people, which a trained musician wouldn't do.
Apart from the music, totally, how would you characterize yourself as a person?
I always find it very difficult.
Are you shy, for example?
I'm shy. I'm quiet. I'm not a talkative person. I spend a lot of time alone, and when I'm not alone, it's with my girlfriend, Yuka. So we spend a lot of time alone together.
A Japanese girlfriend?
A Japanese girlfriend, and I enjoy life. I enjoy life a great deal more now than, you know, I did in the past when, for example, Japan was very successful. I wasn't enjoying my life. I think I always put the music before my own life. You know, it was always my life took a second role to the music. And after Japan split up, I took a break from music for a while, and I began to enjoy life a great deal more. And I began to escape from this. It may sound trivial, but this being in the public eye and being recognised in the streets and having people stand outside your house and, you know, discovering phone numbers and calling you up at all times of the day.
That was life for you.
So when Japan did split up and the fame slowly died away, I became far happier with my surroundings. I became, you know, I could walk the streets again. I felt comfortable. I wasn't too worried, you know, about being recognised and all this. I know it sounds trivial, but because of my own nature, being shy, being a quiet person, I found it a great intrusion in my life. And being free of that, I began to enjoy life, as I said. And then discovering these things, as I said, a kind of set of values upon which to base my life, which was new for me. I mean, it comes down to, as I said earlier, about spiritual awareness, which I don't think is worth going into detail in because it's all very kind of personal experiences. But I began to discover a joy of life which I never knew before, and that exists now, despite any troubles that I go through. And as I said, the last year, the year or two, has been pretty hard as far as working goes. And as I said, making records is a very traumatic experience for me, but it never gets on top of me now. It did in the past, but now I'm able to cope with it because I feel I'm a much more balanced person. That's what I was saying about, I hope that if there is a strength of this album, it lies in the melody and in the lyrical content. They are strong enough to hold this kind of arrangement, you know.